welcome to another episode of the Stadium Journey podcast. Thanks for joining us tonight. You can find all of our 2,500 stadium reviews, news items, and other featured stories on our website, stadiumjourney.com. And connect with us on all social media channels. We can be found at Stadium Journey. Like, comment, share, do it all. You can find audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast by searching HIAC Talk Radio on whatever podcast app you use, or check us out on Spotify. And video simulcast of this podcast can be found on Stadium Journey's YouTube page. Don't forget our classic back catalog can still be found at vocnation.com. And for those of you who are watching this at a later date, we record live every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at twitch.tv/danlaw83. And now let's introduce our starting lineup. We've got Dave Cotney. You can follow him online at ProFan9. Mark Vickers is with us as always. You can find him at Ballpark Hunter. Dan Calachico, the above average comedian, is here. You can follow him at DanLaw83. And I am Paul Baker. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. And we are happy tonight to be joined by Stadium Journey correspondent Mike Davis.
How you doing, everyone?
Michael is from the great city of Dallas, or somewhere in the vicinity, and
Somewhere.
He covers Northern Texas for us. Mike, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So not only do you cover Northern Texas, no problem. Not only do you cover North Texas, you were telling us before the show you have covered some area in your Stadium Journey time.
Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, covered all that area. Went out as far as Tuscaloosa for an Alabama game, and as far west as Arizona and Tucson there for a game. So I can get around.
I guess so. So since our topic is going to be basically, well, we'll start anyway in Northern Texas. I don't think you can talk about sports in North Texas and not talk about the Cowboys. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely not. The Cowboys are the number one in the area. Either when the season's off season, they cover over the Mavs, the Stars, and the Rangers. So anything the Cowboys do, it hits the news first.
And of course, Jerry's Palace always makes headlines too, just from the just when it was built, the sheer price tag of the place. Was it the first $1 billion stadium?
I believe so. It was.
And I took a tour of the place, and yeah, you can tell they put a lot of money into this place.
Well, I've been working there for 11 the full time that it started open, and I still get lost walking around the bottom level, event level, and stuff. So it's a huge place.
So for our listeners who have never been to, is it still called AT&T Stadium?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What sets it apart from other football stadiums in the league, and was it worth the money?
Oh, they got different things, but they have the roof. Obviously, they have doors that open on the end zones where they can keep the roof closed and just have the breeze come through. They got windows on each of their east and west plaza that those day games on the west side, that sunshine comes through and blinds a lot of players. That can affect some of the game. Let's see. They got tons of art. They do a tour by itself with just an art gallery done by Miss Charlotte Jones. So she takes care of that. The field level suites that started on I believe in Indianapolis, they have them in the end zone, but at AT&T, it's all the way around, which if you have a suite on the sidelines, it's not a very good view of the game. So you're really watching the big screen up top. And that goes to the other thing. One of the largest screens in the world is above the field. You basically can pick out anything. So if you're on that screen, they'll get to see your facial expression very well.
Yeah, that screen goes from the 20 to the 20 or something ridiculous like that, right?
Correct. So let's see what else is there. Just a beautiful. They keep it up to date. They do a great job on operations. The clubs on the east and west, or the north and south, for the people who can afford them, are top notch. Legends is the food service. They're very good. I believe they're Yankee Stadium. I know they have them out there. So, which also means the price is high. So that's the one downfall of Jerry World is Yeah, parking, concessions. I mean, you can get in. They have standing room tickets for $50 on the end zones that they put, so they can add another 15,000 to their already 85,000 seats. But yeah, you're paying another 50 for parking, and then probably another 100 for food, and that's just for one person. So it can be an expensive trip.
I didn't realize there was that much standing room. I know one of the things they always show on the telecast is the mad dash to get the best standing room spots once they open the doors.
Correct. Yeah. Once they come in, they leave their spot. There's no, permanent. So they've got to leave someone there and then go get the food and stuff and bring it back. And usually, I have another job that I work security down on the visitor sidelines. So when I do get up to the top or onto the end zones, the people are like, they're probably a good 5-10 yards back, just watching the screen on those standing platforms. So I don't know how much. I think they're just there for the atmosphere, the drinking, and so on. I don't see them watching the game, actually.
It's a lot of money to watch the game on TV.
It is. It is.
Where does it end? If you look at how the Cowboys are doing at the moment, the last couple of years, I would say that they probably lead the league in airtime on ESPN talk shows, but that doesn't translate to wins. I think First Take, made its living off of the Dak Prescott contract negotiations. It seemed to be on like every day, to the point where it was great. PTI was making fun of First Take because all they seemed to talk about was Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. But if they're not very good and people are still lining up to pay astronomical, ridiculous prices, where does it end? If the Cowboys make a playoff run this year, let's say, that's probably going to translate into an increase in ticket prices and parking and concessions and all that kind of stuff. Are the Cowboys that Teflon that they could just keep this up, or is there any kind of rumbling that this is getting to be too much? What do you think?
There always is people who say it's too much and they'd rather stay home. But the Cowboys being such a big brand name, I have a friend who lives in Pennsylvania. She has season tickets and flies into Dallas every weekend that they're playing home. So you're not just getting the Dallas folks. They're the ones who probably are complaining the most, because you got the fans across the country who will continue to support them. And the biggest thing that it won't end because of a man named Jerry Jones. The man is just one of the most intelligent businessmen out there. He knows how to produce his product, how to promote it, good or bad, I guess, if you want to put it either way. But yeah, as long as Jerry's running the show, as far as the Cowboys, they'll be relevant, whether they're good on the field or not. And that's
so.
Go ahead.
So what did Jerry Jones do that gave him such a reputation? I mean, when he came in, he's the guy that got rid of Tom Landry, right? He's the guy that retired Tom Landry.
Well, wasn't Tom Landry 80
He's won 3 Super Bowls. That's what.
Yeah, but he's not
back to popularity.
He was an icon, right?
Right. Yeah, he was. There's a statue out in front of the ticket office there that shows how big Tom Landry is.
I love the highway. Is it from Dallas to Fort Worth? It's got the little Tom Landry hats on the underpasses.
Interstate 30 from Dallas to Fort Worth, Tom Landry freeway. Correct. So, but Jerry he's got the charisma. He knows how to talk to people. He's a salesman. He has the money where he can support people. He gives a lot of money to the community. He's big in his whole family is huge, from the Salvation Army. Yet you'll see at Thanksgiving, people just don't know how much Jerry's involved in the community, and that's what keeps his name and people trusting him.
Because he seems to be like almost the modern day Al Davis. You know, he has been more than willing to buck the NFL with regards to their own sponsorships versus, you know, NFL wide sponsorships and that kind of stuff. He's more willing to just do his own thing and you know, the NFL be damned.
Yeah, and Jerry's always been like that from his time that he played ball in Arkansas. You know, until he got rid of Tom Landry, he put his own person, Jimmy Johnson, as head coach. Which, you know, the debate between was it him or Jimmy that won them Super Bowls, but you know, he just has something about him. He has the it factor that people talk about in sports. Jerry has it when it comes to running the Cowboys.
So would you say the most prolific owner in sports?
Right now, yes. History, yeah, he'd be arguably one. I mean, I can think of you have George Steinbrenner there with the Yankees. Al Davis, as you mentioned, with the Raiders. So there's a few guys that have it, but I still say Jerry has the upper hand on them. Those gentlemen.
That's a real interesting question.
Oh. George Steinbrenner is no longer with us, but I think Steinbrenner, for his time, definitely had a reputation. But yeah, I think Jerry Jones, he brought championship football back to Dallas. All those Dallas Cowboy fans of the 60s and 70s were cheering once again. And you can look at a lot of other franchises. They don't need to win a championship for 20 years. They'll still sell out their games. The New York Knicks, the Yankees, the Cubbies, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Dallas is just that type of brand. It would be interesting to see if they really go on a prolonged drought. But you're right. There's just too many Cowboy fans out there. It's never going to end.
I don't see it either.
So the big question, Mike, was it worth it? Is the stadium worth $1 billion?
For what the other prices are? Yes. Yeah. For what they're building in Vegas and LA, and yeah, because to me, I haven't been. I've just seen photos. AT&T's the pioneer of them all. They all come to AT&T and see what they're, all the way from operations to the design, structure, and even down to security. They run. So yeah, it is definitely the model that other stadiums and other owners are trying to establish in their own organization. I mean,
absolutely.
You're talking about AT&T. Jerry's got the practice facility, the Star, which is on a whole nother level. I don't know if anyone been out there. It's a practice field, but they got restaurants, hotels all around it. It's just a little mini entertainment district. The Star District is what they call it. So yeah, Jerry's got two brands running in Dallas, and Cowboy fans know about it. So, I had one fan that said, "Oh, I'm going to go visit it toward the Star tomorrow." So we have high school football games in there. I believe Frisco, the local ISD, they play a lot of their home games inside the Star. So yeah, it's very interesting.
So we've talked on here about how in baseball, sort of the benchmark, the one that changed everything was Camden Yards. It influenced everything that came after it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that AT&T Stadium has that same opportunity, or is it there already?
I think it's there already, just from the people that being a part of the staff there on game days. I've seen people from other cities, delegates that were from Vegas and LA and Minnesota. They all come there to view. So yeah, I believe it is already there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I think it really did kick off, an arms race in NFL stadiums. If you look at the ones built after it, absolutely. So AT&T is not the only facility in Arlington. There's another brand new place just a few blocks away.
Yeah, we have the new Rangers ballpark at Gold Life Field. right across from Globe Life Park, which is still standing and still, to me, better than the new one. But that can be a debate,
I don't know. I was there once, and it was so stinking hot. I understand why they built the new one with a roof on top.
That's the only thing I can give people. Other than that, you had better views. You had it's nicer to be outside, a better structure. I'm definitely. I mean, went to over 400 games at the Globe Life Park, so that's kind of my home, and I miss it. I mean, I've been to the new stadium 7 times now, and usually I do about 20 a year, and I doubt I'm going to get to that.
Was that the whole point of building a new stadium? Just the roof?
I think so. I think they want to say for the fans, but I personally think it's today's players not wanting to, and I don't blame them. But they don't want to be out there in 100-degree temperature playing 9+ innings, on a Sunday afternoon. They'd rather have that 72 constant. So I think a lot of it had to do with the players, and the Rangers. I think we're hoping that it keeps them in the free agent market, because I think they feel that they've lost a lot over the years due to the Texas weather.
Now, how do I know how us Northeasterners would deal with the Texas heat? How much of a factor? Yeah. How much of a factor really was it for the locals? At Globe Life Park or wherever. Even Texas Stadium, the old Texas Stadium. That was open and it could be hot and whatnot. So how much is the heat really a factor for the locals who have to live there every day?
Well, you're going to get your diehards. We go out there and I sat out there with hardly any attendance and just sweating, sticking to the seat. So if you love baseball, they're going to show up. It's more for the casual fan, the one who likes just to go out and be seen, maybe just to have some friends and go out and enjoy a night out. So when the heat was there, that's something that was a deterrent from doing. So I think the new stadium, you'll see a lot more people going, yeah, let's go to the game. So because they don't have to worry about how hot it is or however you.
Well, how much cooler can you really get a building that big when it's that big with a roof on it? Really? Is there really a difference?
Oh boy!
Oh yeah.
I'm asking. I've never been to an inside baseball stadium in my life.
I'll tell you,
it's a huge difference.
I was in Phoenix one time, and it was 110, 115 degrees outside, and it was funny when you walked in that stadium and that AC hit you. Every single person who walked in, all you heard from everybody was, "Oh,
God."
I could attest to that. They give you bottles of water in the parking lot, wherever you park, that are frozen. And by the time you walk to the stadium, half of it is melted. Yeah,
wow.
It's
I remember being at St. Petersburg to see the Tampa Bay Rays. Probably the most maligned stadium in the world, and you're walking up to the place, and the ticket takers are like, "Come on in this way, air conditioning this way," and absolute Paul, you hit it right on the head.
That's what like I said, there's not one indoor baseball stadium I've ever been to in the Northeast, so it's like, all right. That sucks for us.
You start seeing older women, especially bringing in a light sweater because that air conditioning that will do that much. It'll get cold inside there, and it's July. So yeah, it's a big difference.
Paul, there's a market for us. We can sell parkas down to folks in Texas who are going to the ball game.
What's the converse of that? Someone from down south coming up in April to a game at Fenway or Yankee Stadium or something, or Target Field.
So does the new ballpark have like a little moniker yet? I mean, I've seen the memes that make it look like it's like a barbecue lid opening up. Like, is there is there something like the Trop or the juice box?
Yeah, there really hasn't been anything to stick. Like American Airlines Center, they call it the hangar. But there's not a month here yet that's really established for the Rangers yet. I still think that being the first year that fans are allowed, I think people are just trying to get inside and get a view of the inside. I mean, the outside, I wish the inside's a lot better than the outside. I'll say that much. The outside's kind of an eyesore, especially that tin roof that just looks like a barn. Maybe that's what they'll call it, a barn. But it's nothing sick.
What's happening across the parking lot in the old one?
They've had some concerts planned. They've tried that XFL, their high school games. They got a USL soccer team, I believe, that's trying to make it a home.
USL too, yeah, they do.
They're trying to make it a home. So they're really trying to get some type of capacity of events going in there, because I don't think the city of Arlington's people want that to be just torn down and made a parking lot. I really think there's a strong push to utilize it, keep the infrastructure. I don't think they really care what happens inside. They like the infrastructure. So maybe it'll be a concert venue that they can do. But they're trying everything right now to make it work.
They could tear it down, and Jerry could charge another $1,000 a parking spot, and I'm sure that'll make up for whatever kind of. It'd probably pay for the demolition in a year.
You're probably right. The funny thing with the Arlington taxpayers is, and I understand them, because they paid for the first one, they paid for Jerry World, that got paid off, and now they turned around and making them pay with a sales tax on the new one. So, and then the worst part is when games are broadcast or events are happening, people say, well, welcome to Dallas, Texas. So kind of a sore thing for Arlington people, saying we're paying for it, and Dallas is getting the recognition. So that's been going on since AT&T was built, and now with the new Rangers. So
how's the tailgating out there? Is tailgating in Dallas a big deal, or is it just too expensive to park there? So
for the Cowboy game, or just in general?
Either or, both.
The best. Well, they've kind of cut back as to because of the pandemic. Prior to that, the Rangers, the only time you really saw tailgating at its best was opening day. Maybe July 4th if they had a game. There's so many people that fill the lots on opening day for a Ranger game that just to tailgate, they don't even go into the game. It's just to be out there on hopefully a nice afternoon and
at $1,000 a spot. Woo!
At Rangers Park, it's not that bad. You get
$500 a spot.
Ranger Park. Yeah, the Cowboys, the stuff that the Cowboy fans bring, the smokers, and they do go all out. They have big, huge televisions to watch the games prior, which I'm sure there's other stadiums do it. But it's good. I'll say it's good tailgating when it's done right. This year we'll have to find out with the new rules. I think they're cutting the hours that they're allowing the fans to start. So it'll be a little later. So you'll lose that 1 or 2 hours. So I don't know how they're going to work it.
I guess since there's more to Texas than just Arlington, Mike, why don't you tell us about some of your favorite spots to go? Pro, college, doesn't matter. Some of your favorite spots in northern Texas, and even.
Well, baseball, I would have to say Frisco.
All right, great. We were going to talk about Frisco, yes.
Yeah, Frisco is one of those unique ballparks. It doesn't feel like a ballpark. It's just, there's something about Frisco that just makes it an enjoyable night, and you don't feel like it's a little pricey for a minor league AA team, but it's special. I'm glad that I'm only 40 minutes from going up there. I'm only 8 miles from the Rangers, but that one for football. Let's see. That one is a little tougher. My heart is TCU because I was part of the renovation of the new stadium. So that stadium is actually, close to my heart, and I know the people that work there and that. So, and the TCU family, they've taken care of me over the years, even after I'm not even working there. So I got some perks from it. So I love going over to TCU. I'm a Texas fan, so going to Austin is my favorite. There's nothing like Saturday night in Austin with 100,000 Burnt Orange fans.
As a guy from the Northeast, it was just amazing to be in downtown Austin and driving around, and then boom, here's 100,000 seat football stadium right downtown, right next to the Capitol building.
Yeah,
it was just
right there.
Amazing.
You could probably 35 right next to it.
Yeah.
Well, they renovated it, so they're going to have where the big, huge Godzilla scoreboard is. They're going to have suites, so it's actually going to be enclosed and put a couple thousand more seating. They're just going to try to keep building up, and as long as donors and fans keep filling that stadium, they're going to be able to. Plus, I think they're in a little contest with A&M. A&M did the same thing a few years ago. A&M's a great place to see a game if you haven't been. I do call it a cult, but they're very respectable. They're nice people. It's fun. Tradition's huge there, obviously, and to go there and to learn their traditions, just to see their band doing in the marching military formation. That's a special place as well. So Texas got full. I mean, Baylor, we mentioned earlier before we came on, it got a really nice stadium that's right on the Brazo. They do sailgating, some boats out there tailgating, kind of like in New York. So Washington and I believe Tennessee is the other one that has the water where people can be on a boat and do some tailgating before the game. Let's see. SMU. SMU, the Dallas's team, when they built it and got out of the Cotton Bowl, I mean, they originally had it at Ownby Field. They got out of there, went to the Cotton Bowl when the Cowboys came in. Then they decided to go over to Texas Stadium when during the Dickerson and the Pony Express time frame because they wanted a better facility. Then obviously after what happened to their program, the fans weren't there, so they decided to build Ford Stadium on the campus of SMU, which is about a 32,000 seat stadium. It's I enjoy it because every time I go there with Stadium Journey, the SMU staff is wonderful with me. They treat me very red carpet, everything. So I enjoy going to SMU for those games. Wish they had a little better team, but other than that, I mean, the SMU TCU game is always fun. That's a rivalry, even though they're not in the same conference. The Skillet, the Battle of the Skillet is what it's called. So, and it's either usually a blowout or an upset. So, SMU usually pulls that upset, or TCU just blows them out. So that's how that one runs. I haven't been to UT El Paso, so I'm not sure about the Sun Bowl out there.
El Paso's a bit of a hike, though, right?
Yeah, that's a 9-hour drive. So, Houston, I went down and did a review on the Cougars' new stadium. That's a really nice stadium. Small, on campus. You can see the Houston skyline from the seating. Much different than their counterpart across the way, Rice. Rice is just an old, rundown stadium, unfortunately.
Wasn't the Super Bowl held at that stadium once?
Yes, it was back in the 70s. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Well, Rice needs to do what Tulane did, because when Tulane Stadium and they had the Super Bowl there, now I went down and saw their new stadium down there in New Orleans, and Rice needs to follow that footprint and put a nice stadium on their campus. So let's see what other college. That's pretty much it for the majors. in around Texas.
So, Mike, you mentioned TCU, and at one point TCU was like they were kind of like the Boise State smaller conference. It's like the smaller conference school that could, and Central Florida, like those guys who kind of rose up, and then eventually they hit the Big 12, joined in with the big guns with Texas and with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and those guys. So twofold question. Number one, do they belong there? Has the popularity of TCU remained since they've joined the Big 12? And secondly, you talked about SMU, and last time we talked about Houston possibly, finding its way into the Big 12. Do you think SMU belongs in the Big 12 as well?
I'd take Houston over SMU as far as a Big 12 entry, just because of I just think right now that program's better. SMU's got a little different from academics in part. I would not say they shouldn't eventually be, because it'll just be just like the Southwestern Conference again. So they definitely can go in. I don't know if they're ready to jump in right now. If they do, they'll take their lumps, where I think Houston's a little more prepared for it, both in football and basketball, obviously, for what they did through the tournament. And they got a nice new basketball facility down there. As far as the popularity, TCU kind of, when the Big 12 and they were left out and Baylor was actually allowed in, it kind of made of a hatred between Baylor and TCU. Do not like each other. That's a rivalry that just started because of the Big 12. I mean, they were conference foes back in the Southwestern Conference, but when TCU was left out, they feel that Baylor was in someone's ear leaving them out. So the fan bases between those two do not like each other. And then no one likes Texas, so.
But TCU fits in the conference now?
I think so, absolutely. I mean, they have the recruiting area. I mean, you're in the state of Texas and getting recruits. The key things that again, being a Texas fan, that I'd see is their downfall. You have all the talent in the world in your backyard. They end up in Oklahoma, okay. But the ones that you do bring, you don't develop. And I think that's where TCU and Gary Patterson kind of went over Texas as far as a program. As far as winning they've won their last 5 out of 6 meetings, might be 4 out of 5, but they've dominated Texas. And a lot of it has to do not because they had the better recruits, but because they're getting these three stars that won't go to Texas or the bigger schools, and they're developing in a system. So, I think as long as TCU has that and gets those Texas similar situation, or another school that, they can develop the 3-star talent that they're getting, it's good enough to compete in the Big 12. Oklahoma's on a whole different level. They've dominated for 6. I don't even know offhand. I'm so tired of Oklahoma, but of winning it. I mean, I'm already, and my friends up there in Oklahoma are laughing because, I know a lot about Oklahoma football because, they say, keep your friends near, but your enemies closer. That's how I feel about Oklahoma football. So, but they're doing a great job up there, and that's how it is. They develop. They get the good talent, they develop them, and then now they're in the NFL, and that's the way programs should be. So, to go back to TCU, I think they absolutely do belong in the Big 12. And it helps me because I get to see some more games closer, 20 miles instead of driving to Waco or somewhere else. SMU could have been. I mean, I'd love to see SMU and Houston get into it and just kind of bring that whole Southwestern Conference back together. Other than Arkansas leaving for the SEC, but and They won't ever leave that. They're in a great spot up there. So,
well, let's take a minute. Let's switch some gears out of football. I know it's hard to believe, but
I'm shocked that we're doing a show about Texas and we talked about football.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mike, you mentioned Jerry Jones and his place in Dallas as the big owner, and his place in sports as the big owner. But you guys have another one down there, maybe little brother. I don't know.
You're talking about Mark
definitely,
Cuban,
yeah, Mark Cuban definitely commands some airwaves. I would say over the last couple of years, it's been a rough go for him, especially with all of the office turmoil that he has had to deal with all of these kinds of claims of executives who have just not been behaving properly.
Mm-hmm.
How does Mark Cuban come off in Dallas?
Oh wow, good question. Well, Mark's another intelligent, made his own money, own man. He knows how to play society. He knows what makes money. So people like Mark. They like his passion. They love the fact when he came in and he went from a fan's point of view, against the refs, basically, one of them. They basically looked at Mark as being a Mavericks fan, just like they are. And then of course, winning the championship was a highlight. But now that Dirk has left the team, people are kind of looking at fingers saying, where's this Mavs team direction? Is Cuban really a good owner? And they're questioning him a little more than they did when he first started and then went up to the championship.
I think Mark Cuban's story is brilliant. I mean, here's a guy who I'm pretty sure he went to Indiana, and basically what he wanted to do is he wanted to be able to listen to Notre Dame games. So he ended up buying the rights and figuring out a way to stream them online, the radio call, and ended up turning that into a company that he sold for billions. Yep. It's the ultimate entrepreneurial sort of story with him.
Oh, great. Very much.
Has the office issues there been a big story?
Oh, not really. Actually, like you said, the Dak story probably covered that even. But it did for a little bit. I think Mark's response to it, bringing in the person he did to overseas, like kind of a third party. So he wasn't going in there making decisions. You let an outside person, which is part of his business sense, saying, okay, something's wrong here. I'm not going to do the investigation. Let me bring a third party in there, and then they can report, and then we'll go in and fix what we need to fix. And I think that's where Mark did a great job on that.
Yeah, he sure did it the right way. He came out right out in front and said, I really didn't know what was going on, but it was my job to know. I should have known. It really, to me, it shone a light on the kind of owner that he was, and as fans, we like that. We like the guy that's going to spend money. We like the guy that's sitting in the front row wearing the jerseys instead of the Blazers or whatever, and being all excited and everything. But at the end of the day, you still got to control what's going on in the boardroom. And for him to sit there on national television and really face the music, I thought was pretty impressive.
I agree. I think he handled it better than anyone else could have. I think he did the right thing on his decisions. So I think that's why I don't think you really hear much about it anymore. I think because he came out, in front and got when it happened and took care of it and brought in people, this isn't kind of a hush hush, let's linger it on for 2 years and let's, if it doesn't fix or if it fixes, who cares? He basically put his foot down like the owner should, and like you said, he took responsibility, which Mark has through everything since he's owned a team. Even when he's wrong with the NBA, he kind of puts it on himself. So no, that worked out well for him, I guess. Unfortunately, it happened. Definitely, but glad that he went in there and cleaned it up, and hopefully it's a better culture and atmosphere now for the employees.
Wait, what can you say about Dallas when a former president of the United States was a major sports owner, and he's kind of an afterthought. He's kind of oh yeah, George Bush owned the Rangers. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he traded Sammy Sosa.
Yes, in fact, I'm still trying to talk to George W. on giving me his Rangers season tickets for a game. I'm close enough to. I've met George W. throughout, going to games and shook his hand and got to talk to him, saluted him at the SMU Navy game. But Rusty Rose is one of his co-owners back when George W. owned the Rangers. And I have a relative I know, the roommate that's related. And so I'm trying to always say, hey, can you give me some seats? So that's my goal, to actually see if George W. will ever get me his seats for a game. I don't see it happening, but that's my my goal, because I can pay for any other seats. I want it.
Well, we should probably who owns the Dallas Stars anyway? We should probably cover the Dallas Stars. Almost seem to be an afterthought, don't they?
They are, and
they only made the finals, the Stanley Cup Finals last year.
Only. And I'm fortunate enough to have a cousin who works with the Stars as well. So that helps. But
so listeners, when you head down to Texas, hit up Mike. He knows everyone.
It seems so, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've gotten a few phone calls when people come down. But the Stars, hockey's a whole different animal, and you guys know it from being up in the Northeast and follow hockey more than I do. That they're a special fan base. They're diehards. Calling their sweater a jersey is not a correct thing to a hockey fan. So the Stars have their diehards, and when they're winning, everyone wants to be a Stars fan. This could probably kind of continue like everywhere else, I guess. There's big bandwagon jumpers, but they bring a lot of excitement to the city when they're in the playoffs. In fact, anytime Dallas, the Stars and the Mavs are in the playoffs at the same time in Dallas, since they run concurrent seasons, it's great to be a Dallas fan. For sports. Cowboys still take center stage even then, but it's still to go down to the AAC and the area around there for a playoff game. It's very cool.
So, Mike, we were touching really quickly on hoops and hockey and soccer and some of the other sports. Are there any hidden gems in North Texas that maybe people haven't heard of that are worth a visit?
Oh,
I mean, we mentioned Frisco, and Frisco is one of our favorite minor league parks, without a doubt.
Frisco's a must for any sports fan. If you're coming for baseball season and you like college baseball, DBU, Dallas Baptist University. They actually are. Did they make the College World Series, or they were just short of it?
I think they made the World. Yeah, I think they lost in the Super Regionals, right?
Yeah, I think it was to Virginia. But that's a small Baptist school that they're Division I only in baseball and maybe one other sport. The rest are down to like the junior level college. So going there and seeing that talent, that's a fun time out there at that little ballpark. Trying to think of some other ones that may. Well, we do have a G League team. We do have a women WNBA team. The Dallas Wings, when they were over at Arlington Center Center Park at the University of Texas Arlington. I can't even tell you where they're playing now, unfortunately. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we do have. I mean, there's so many sports available in this area. We used to have professional lacrosse. That unfortunately that went away. We've had women's football. We had indoor football.
You're going to have professional lacrosse again.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah.
Panther City, right?
Panther City.
Panther City. Okay. Is Fort Worth the Panther City? Is that a common phrase?
I've
never heard of
where
that.
It comes from. I mean, but usually it's Hell's Acres, and there's a few other. Cowtown is another one, a popular one by George Strait.
Hell's Acres.
Yeah, Hell's Acres. That's basically in reference to the cattle run. It was the end of where the Cowboys started the trail, the Chisholm Trail. And basically the downtown area of Fort Worth used to just be bars with a lot of prostitutions and drunks. So that's why they called it Hell Acres. So
I missed it when I was down in the area. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you went to right now where that area is, it's where the Kennedy stayed his last night, the hotel, and also the Water Gardens. I don't know if you went to the Water Gardens, but it's right there by the Omni Hotel downtown.
I was with my wife, so bars and prostitutes probably wouldn't have.
Well, they're not there anymore. That's just what it used to be. Now it's pretty much just water, family fun, and water fountains, and they're. But what is it called? Pioneer Square? No, that's Seattle. I get those two mixed up. But there is a spot down in Fort Worth where there's some restaurants and nice eateries.
So
away from the. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
All right. So if you were to recommend, someone's coming to Texas, they want to experience Texas, through sports, but not going to the big cities. Where would you point them?
Fort Worth, because Fort Worth's not a big city to me. TCU, we have the new Dickies Arena opening up, so there's going to be a lot of events there. We got a minor league hockey team, the Brahmas. That's in North Richland Hills, which is just outside. It's a small little skating rink. That's pretty good hockey. Allen's another one, so bringing up the junior leagues.
The ECHL champions, the Allen Americans.
Exactly. So that's a great place to go up to if you want to not go into Dallas and see some good professional sports. Definitely up there.
That's Fort Wayne is the ECHL champion.
I mean, yeah, I didn't mean this year. I meant the previous year. 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Last back to back.
Oh.
But that's a great time up there. Allen's got a nice little arena. So we have
isn't there a cricket
team.
stadium getting built?
Grand Prairie.
Isn't
Grand Prairie?
What
does that look like? Have you been able to see the transformation?
I haven't. I used to live in Grand Prairie, but I don't usually go over to my old neighborhood anymore. But when the Air Hogs were there, and I mostly go to if I'm over in that area, I'm going to the horse track right next door to where the Air Hogs played. So no, but I'll have to get over there and check it out and see what they're doing with that stadium. So, but yeah, they have a lot of events out there. They got the amphitheater next to the ballpark for concerts. They do fireworks for July 4th stuff. So yeah, Grand Prairie has some entertainment.
All right, that's great stuff. And I wanted to ask you before we let you go, Mike. I know we're coming up against it. You said you spent a lot of time up in Oklahoma, right?
Yes.
In my mind, one of the most underrated cities in the country to visit, Oklahoma City. What are your thoughts about the stuff up there?
I agree with you. That's a great statement. It's, OKC, people go up there and they're just like, oh, but if you really get into it, there's so much to do in Oklahoma City. The people are nice. Restaurants are great. It's just so much more than just going to Bricktown. I mean, you have Bricktown there with the river, and of course the OKC Dodgers, who when I covered them, top class organization. They do everything great up there. So yeah, I need to get back up there, but there's a lot of hidden gems in Oklahoma City. I mean, obviously, the end of May, beginning of June, you got the Women's College World Series, which is a great time. Been up there, covered that for a few years. But yeah, overall, Oklahoma City does not get what it deserves as far as people visiting. So I agree with you. They definitely take a trip to OKC and check it out. I mean,
yeah, one of those cities I wish I had spent a little more time in.
Yeah, you know, the Thunder have a great crowd. I covered that. But you know, you have the Memorial, which is kind of a downer, but it's
very well done. No, very well done Memorial.
It is very well done, but it's you know, it is a little downers. But other than that, you know, there's the zoos are great. I mean, just the whole area is fun.
And that I had probably the best steak I've ever had in my life in Oklahoma City.
Where'd you have it?
Cattleman's. Cattleman's.
Okay.
The presidential T-bone.
In Fort Worth, though.
Yeah, the presidential T-bone.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah. They got a great. I don't know what type of beer you like, but they have an F5. They call it IPA. One of my favorites. In fact, I went and found some in cans, which is not the same one coming out of draft with IPA. You know, I brought it back to Texas, but it's definitely one of my favorite IPAs is from Oklahoma City. And they got a couple other breweries in Oklahoma City now that are doing really well. You know, it used to be a joke because of I don't know the joke, but because of the Indian territory, the percentage of alcohol when you went into a normal store and bought beer was less than a normal alcohol you buy in Texas. So when Oklahoma would come down for the Texas OU, Texas fan would laugh saying, "Oh, you're getting drunk," because you consider that, I think it's 2-3 beer they call it up there in Oklahoma. You know, so you came down for some real beer. But now that the breweries and all that are opening up, they've got a solid choice up there for drinking.
Right. So I guess that's pretty much all the time we have left for tonight. Mike, thanks for joining us. And before you go, do you want to let our listeners know where they can follow your travels online?
You can follow me at Tejas Stuck on Twitter. Let's see, my Facebook's just Michael Davis. So Michael James Davis, Facebook. And that's pretty much it.
All right, Mike. Great conversation. Thanks for educating us on Dallas and the surrounding area. It was a great conversation.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thanks again for coming on.
All right, bye now.
So that's all the time we have tonight. Once again, thanks to Michael Davis for joining us and talking about Texas. So Dan, where can our listeners follow you on the social medias?
Well, all social media platforms except Facebook for another 30 days at DanLaw83.
Mark, how about you? Where can our listeners follow you online?
Ballpark Hunter across social media platforms.
And Dave, where can our listeners follow you online?
Twitter, Instagram at ProFan9.
And you can follow my stadium journeys on Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. Remember, you can find all of our stadium reviews, news items, and other feature stories on our website, stadiumjourney.com. Connect with us on all social media channels at Stadium Journey. Like, comment, and share everywhere. You can find audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on your podcast app, or find us on Spotify. And video simulcast of this podcast can be found on Stadium Journey's YouTube page. And our classic back catalog can still be found at vocnation.com.
Classic.
Yeah, we record live every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at twitch.tv/danlaw83. Thanks to everyone for hanging out there. And just because we're doing things a little differently, little disclaimer here, we're going to mix things up a little bit on the Stadium Journey podcast. For those of you who are listening live on Twitch, we're going to start up a recap of our recent trips in just a couple minutes. For those of you listening or watching the recording of this podcast, that discussion will premiere next Wednesday, July 28th. So basically, instead of one mega long podcast every 2 weeks, we're going to try and drop sleek and sexy content every week on stadiumjourney.com, our YouTube channel, and of course, on the HIAC Talk Radio Network. So thanks everyone for your support. For Dan, Mark, and Dave, this is Paul wishing you safe stadium journeys and close games. Hope to see you on the road soon.